Hello you, I'm Dan Morfitt and this is your Daily Rundown on Channel 7. If you want to get in touch with the show, we're at The Daily Rundown on Twitter. That's little squiggle, The Daily Rundown. Or you can email us as well, dailyrundown@thatstv.com. And you could be having your something to say. Which brings me to Polly. It's your chance to have your midweek something to say.
Cool. I was going to talk about how women are spoken about in sport. I was interested in discussing that with you guys. I feel like the examples are so numerous that I need to know when to stop. But it's this kind of very gendered way in which sports reporters address women. It's everything from Serena Williams being told to smile, a tennis player called Eugene Bouchard, I think, being asked to give a twirl in a skirt, sportswomen being described as the wife of somebody, their looks, their expressions, their outfits, their makeup. It's just a totally, in my opinion, inappropriate way of talking about people that are world-class athletes and so disparate to how we talk about male athletes. So
things like she's got such an unbelievable desire to win and she's a mother. Yeah, bringing in their personal lives is another big one. She's married to this person. The framing it as wife of so-and-so, there have been articles that don't even include the athlete's name. They just include her relation to her husband, and also kind of the kind of way of referring to female sports people's accomplishments in relation to men's. So Simone Biles being called the Michael Jordan of gymnastics. It's just so frustrating, and it is something that's being spoken about on social media. There's a Cover the Athlete hashtag on Twitter that's being used to try to highlight some of this. But I feel like more needs to be done about it. And the research around this is pretty staggering. The Cambridge University Press has come out with a study that looked at a really wide range of different kinds of media, from social media to news reporting. It was over 160 million words relating to sport, and found that overwhelmingly appearances talked about in regard to women's sport rather than men's, their personal life, and the kind of adjectives that get put with one or the other are just so different. This is a kind of known phenomenon. It's a provable phenomenon, and I kind of wonder what is to be done, and whether you guys have any thoughts on it.
Oh, it's definitely there, isn't it? And there's just with the coverage of the Olympics, there's been so many examples cropping up, as you've said, and I mean, a lot of it not exactly goes hand in hand with, but you tend to find it from the same media outlets that you're getting quite a lot of casual homophobia, for example, during the coverage of the Olympics, of which there is no small amount as well, and it must be absolutely infuriating for these highly trained people who are out there doing something that they've worked hard for, that they absolutely love, and their accomplishments are being, forgotten or derided simply because they're female. Because of the way that it's spoken about within the popular press and on social media, and it's one of the lovely tentacles of societal misogyny, really, which we just still can't seem to shake off for some damn reason. It
does seem that a successful woman in a sport winning seems like an anomaly or something amazing, but if a man does it, it's because he's trained. Well, if a woman wins, it's because that's an amazing achievement.
Well, there's
that she's trained for.
Yeah,
but there's that. There's also a massive playing down of women's sport in general. I had a quite impressive argument with a colleague of mine who was talking about how women's football is just less good, and these kind of arguments still exist, and I kind of tried to say, well, it depends what you think of as good and what you value in sport, and women's sport is different to men's sport, but it doesn't mean it's kind of better or worse. And it was kind of ended up in a flaming row. But I think there's even, I find it really interesting, even on the most basic level, the frequency with which women are referred to as girls rather than as women. And how often do you see
I don't know, Usain Bolt being referred to as a boy. It just, this infantilizing thing is so prevalent, and it happens, you know, outside of sport as well, and I just find it so frustrating.
Do you think the tide is thankfully turning though with this Olympics, with Andy Murray saying
that
to
well, because the interviewer was saying to Andy Murray, "You're the first person to win 2 gold medals at tennising in the Olympics," and he was just, well, Serena and Villiers have 4 each, and again, it's just for a lot of, I think, perhaps sports reportage, the only sport that's worth covering is played by males, played by guys. So when the Women's Football World Cup, which England are well, you know, pretty much top of the board in, I believe. I'm not a follower of sport.
We got to the semi-final.
Okay, great. So now had that happened in, you know, a different World Cup, the massive, hugely money-spinning one.
The women have done better than the men.
Exactly, yeah, and England getting to the semi-final would have been, whoa, big, smashing news, and yet it's happening extremely regularly when the competitors are female, with no one giving it a second glance or, you know, so much as a tip of the hat, rather. You know, it's...
There's been this amazing photograph of a newspaper headline, which is in bold letters, Phelps wins... silver in 100 metres fly, and beneath that is Ledecky gets a world record in 800 metre freestyle in smaller type, and you're like,
which is the greater achievement?
Yeah, silver or a world record, amazing, triumphant, and I believe all the credit was given to her partner and her coach, rather than her for doing the business in the pool.
And I feel as well like there's all these other taboos. I think another thing that's really interesting that's come out is the idea about kind of women's periods and how that's all about. Yeah, there was one of the Chinese swimmers who did not do as well as expected and was found crouched down behind a board in pain because she was on her period, and spoke about that and said that she didn't swim as well as she could, and so little is known really about what effect it has on women's performance, and it's such a taboo subject.
Things are slowly changing. The BBC are finally giving credence to women's cricket, women's football, women's rugby even. It's good that it's changing, but it's one of those things, it's happening slowly, and I think these Olympics have shown up glaring omissions to giving women the credit in sports where they deserve it. Thank you for your something to say, Polly.
No worries.
Ashleigh, what is your something to say?
Sticking with Olympics coverage, and you know, because let's carry on here. I think we're on the roll. Essentially, so we have seen casual homophobia, as has been mentioned. So there was no greater a news institution than the Daily Mail, the paper that supported Hitler, have said, you know, when the men's, was it the double diving?
Jack,
and so they won.
Jack Law and Tom Mears, I think.
I think, yes. So, and they won, and got excited, and they're told, you've won the gold, and we're jumping up and down and hugging each other, and the Daily Mail, of course, went with steady on, chaps. Whereas the Chinese athletes who hadn't been as successful were described as settling for a manly pat on the back. And so it's this...
It's a needling homophobia.
Yeah, exactly. And it's constantly there, it's constantly suggestive. So one of the... it was the Daily Beast, which is, you know, a website which allegedly does news, but one of their guys, journalist fellows, went along to the Olympic Village in Rio, installed the Grindr app, which I'm sure you've heard of, and then proceeded to write an article outing gay athletes, including someone from a country where being gay is not looked upon in the most legal way, right? So this person has outed a lot of people who, for whatever reason, personal or professional reasons, have decided not to come out, because it is, you know, a number of the out LGBT athletes have talked about how it is, if you're out, it's basically difficult to get taken
But there's
seriously.
no reason for outing anybody deliberately.
Quite, well, apart from clickbait. That's what it is. That's what this class of journalism is. Well, in what country under you know, in what way would you prosecute that exactly? I mean, it's if it's something that's true, and he said, oh well, you know, I found his Grindr profile and I'm going to publish it.
Isn't it libel? You're not supposed to. Well, it depends on the profile of the person. But if I was to say that a so-and-so celebrity was gay, I think that you can be sued for.
I mean, is that still the case if it's taken place in a different country? Because this has obviously happened in the Olympic Village in Brazil. One assumes
it leaves a really bad taste in your mouth.
That's horrible.
Yes, it is.
Fully horrible.
It's astonishing, isn't it? But a number of out LGBT athletes who've so one of them accepted there's been a couple of proposals over in Rio from one athlete to another, or from an athlete to their partner. I forget who exactly, but there's been some absolutely fantastic moments of yes, brilliant.
In the rugby sevens, a Brazilian woman. That was fantastic to see her fiance come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Just come out right there and then, as she was that the one who came out as she won the gold, or as she was out in her personal life, but just announced it, at this global event, and that is a colossal, brilliant step forward.
Is there also another side to it where they've got their favourites gay? So the Daily Mail have got Tom Daley, and he's bisexual, he's out, but they can feel safe with him being gay because it's popular. They can have him on the front page. He'll sell papers.
He's a conservative gay, essentially, isn't it? Because I still don't understand how there can be people within the LGBT community who will vote for the Conservatives, for example. I don't get, the cognitive dissonance there. Anyone feel like looking up Section 28? Because, do that, essentially. So,
Theresa May.
Well, I couldn't possibly comment. She is too powerful. We must gather our forces and strike again. No, but there is that, as you said, that constant needling homophobia, and it's not just that one particular outlet who I've mentioned that done it. This thing that the Daily Beast have done has caused a massive backlash, and one of the athletes themselves has responded to the journalist, on social media or on Twitter, and called him out for it in, no uncertain terms, shall we say. So yes, you say the tide is turning in that sense. Not very...
No, I meant as a negative thing, because they think they've got this safe gay icon in Tom Daley that they can just have him as their representative, but the rest of it they can go steady on, chaps.
Yeah, they can go...
Well, I think that, the debates around intersex athletes are really interesting in regard to this as well, because there's this kind of panic around are they men or are they women, in a way that's being, it feels to me, disguised as concern about the sport and about their performance within the sport, but actually there's quite a lot of
biological essentialism, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, and so within the trans community, it's usually referred to as cissexism. So it's like someone who is not, the gender that they appear to be or were designated at birth, and particularly, someone who's intersex. A lot of the time, such may choose to not come out about it and just be, sort of go for one or another, whichever they may feel comfortable with, even if that kind of means putting on a show and kind of hiding and so on. So it's couched in terms of concern. It's like, well, we're not sure if it's safe to have, intersex and or trans athletes competing. We're not sure it's going to be safe for everybody else. It's like, no, you're just being casually oppressive.
To wrap this up, do you think that this Olympics, for its misogyny and homophobia, it's been a watershed? Do you think this will change again in 2020 for the Tokyo Olympics? Or do you think similar shows to this will be having similar discussions then?
Probably. Yeah,
probably.
Maybe the number of instances will go down, but I suspect we'll see traditionalist media outlets being traditionalists for a long time yet.
It's a shame. It's a shame. Right, we'll see you again.
I'm a cynic. That's why you get me.
That's why you're here. We'll see you again in about 3 minutes' time for some of the more strange stories of the day. This is the Daily Rundown on Channel 7.